Hello and welcome back. In this video I'm going to be turning a piece of Alder from St Ives in Cornwall, and it had a small surprise inside for me. Keep watching to find out my struggles. And you'll also get to see a little bit more of the workshop space since I've moved. Here I'm just trimming up the blank to get it slightly more round. The actual blank has been drying for a while, rough cut. There's the tree it originally came from in St Ives. A little bit rounder and ready to mount the piece onto the Union Graduate, sat in its booth there. As I plan to turn this one as a live edge bowl, I needed to grind out a little smooth flat area for the faceplate to be mounted so that I could get a flush mounting onto the chuck there. As you can see, now it's mounted, it's nice and square, and I'll be using a Henry Taylor super flute bowl gouge, quick sharpen before we start turning. I freehand sharpen, which some people prefer, and some people prefer to use a jig. I tend to freehand sharpen because I find it much quicker and it works for me. First cut with a nice sharp chisel, producing lovely ribbons. I'll speed up the next few cuts so you can see the outside of the bowl starting to take shape. As I'm making these nice deep cuts, the chisel's bevel is riding on the previous cut, so you can see the support that it actually gives the chisel as well as the tool rest as I'm pushing through these last cuts now on the outside. Still a bit more to take off the bottom there where there's a bit of a chainsaw scar, but we can really see the burr pattern starting to show through. Managed to get a slightly clearer shot without my helmet obscuring the chisel on this one, so you can see the shape of the outside of the bowl really starting to come through on each cut now as I work on those flat spots on the wings. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps and encourages me to keep making these videos and improve the content. And you can always leave a comment if there's anything you'd like to see in a future video, or any questions about any of my equipment, my techniques. Last few cuts on the outside of the bowl here, and in the next shot I've taken a bit of an experimental angle by wedging the camera in my apron, but you get a real good view of chisel doing all the work here, and I'm just guiding it through the cut. And now the outside's all shaped, it's time to put my mortise in the bottom, which doesn't take too long, just a few little cuts with this little parting chisel does the job. And there's a slight dovetail on that so that it allows it to grip the chuck nicely. Then we give it a quick sand, clean up the workshop a little bit, and the outside is looking lovely. You can start and see the nice burr pips really shining through and the lovely grain in this Alder. And keep watching for when I come to oil it, because the colours really start to pop. Cleaned up and mounted, ready to start hollowing out the inside. Now at this point I was not aware of anything that was coming up, because on the outside of the bowl there was nothing obvious giving any indication as to what was hiding inside this one. The wood was behaving really nicely, nice clean cuts, not too much vibration, nice ribbons coming off, and at this point I thought it was all going fine. It was around about here I started to notice that the wood had some harder spots as I was cutting, and I could feel the vibrations coming through. I didn't think much of it because there were a few knots and the burr patches tend to be a bit harder as they go deeper in. Now, as I'm getting a bit deeper in, the wood was starting to fight me a little bit, so I'm having to make a few back cuts as well to smoothen out the curve. Just there under my hand you can see a slight black scar starting to appear, and in the next couple of cuts you'll get to hear the first indications that there was something more inside this bowl than just wood. Don't know if you heard that little noise there, but I'll play it again in slow motion. That was the noise of my nice sharp chisel becoming very blunt as I cut through a piece of metal, which there was no real sign of on the outside other than that tiny little scar. And at this point I wasn't really sure exactly what it was. I thought it might be a bit of barbed wire due to the shape of it, and as we get to here, I'm trying to pick it out, I realise it's a nail. It didn't want to come out easily. I resorted to mole grips and a good yank. Quick regrind of the chisel, get rid of that blunt surface, and back to the final hollowing of the bowl. And as I go through this one, I decided not to go quite as deep as I normally would on a bowl of this shape. I left it with a slightly heavier set base. If I had hollowed it all the way down to where I normally would, I think that the scar would have disappeared, and I kind of wanted to keep that in there. And there we are, all turned and quick sand, ready for oiling. A nice big bag of shavings, which will end up getting composted or used for animal bedding. lockskin hemp oil for wood. There'll be a link in the description where you can get that. It's great stuff, don't need gloves, nice and natural, and it really brings out the colour in the wood. Really nice orange colours coming out through this alder, contrasting with the darker brown bark edge there. You can really see the hemp oil soaking in already and bringing those colours out even more, and all the grain. Little coat on the outside, making sure I get it in all the cracks on the bark so it all soaks in nicely. This piece will have several more coats over the next week or two while each one soaks in and cures. Giving it a little buff at slow speed, that is time lapsed, and then off the bowl comes. If you've watched this far through, thank you very much for staying with me. This one was really fun to make. Finding the nail inside was a nice surprise and made for a fun edit. There we are. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Stay tuned for the next video.